And now our topic is Understanding UN Policies, Setting Committees and Agenda Items by Alp Aral Baykal. Let me introduce himself to you. Alp Aral Baykal is currently a sophomore medical school studying in Melbourne, Australia, having started in MUN career in 2016. Mr. Baykal has attended various MUN conferences both in and out of Turkey. Having chaired for prestigious MUNs such as Eurasia and MUNTR, he also has academic experience and has been an Undersecretary General mainly for World Health Organization committees. Mr. Baykal is also one of the two founders of GCMUN. So, Mr. Baykal, stage is yours.
Thank you for the introduction. I hope everyone can hear me. My microphone is working, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I know it's early, like my friend Onat said earlier. So thank you all for coming. And even though I don't have a White House room in the background, you will have to do with a picture of my grandfather and I for now. I hope that will be okay. So let's begin with the most asked question of it all. How to set your committees and agenda items and how to understand what exactly the United Nations is doing. So now, how do we exactly start? I found out that there are three main points for what you should do while setting your committees and agenda items. We'll go into these in detail, but just to give a brief summary, you should really consider the level of your delegates. Are they high school students, university students, maybe both? It's a mixed conference. That's really important. The second one is outreach. This and relatability, the third point, actually go in hand in hand. Since the entire point of an MUN conference is to teach students about global topics and allow them to come up with solutions to those topics, it should not necessarily be something local. It should be something global. But again, it should not be too global to distract the student too much, because when it's something to do with their daily lives and something they see, for example, the coronavirus, they more easily adapt to the situation and come up with problems because they're living the problem. And I actually coded these with level outreach and relatability. It's lore, like lore cheese right here. So you can remember it from there if you want. I don't know, I find it easier to code things. So let's just go on. Okay, so to expand upon level, the first thing to think of is knowledge. This could be how much actually do you think your attendees are involved? How do you know this? For example, if someone's a first timer compared to someone with, I don't know, 30 MUN conferences under their belt as experience, they're probably going to be a lot less involved at first and don't know really much except, I don't know, maybe very well-known topics. There could be exceptions to this, of course, but generally, especially for high school students and first timers, they might not know, for example, I don't know, the civil war in Yemen, for example. It might be too tough of a topic for them. So maybe you should consider if you're expecting them to know a lot about what's happening on the world or not. To education, this is really important because it's something we face, especially in big conferences. Are your delegates going to be university students? Are they going to be high school students? Are they going to be graduates? Are they going to be adults? Are they going to be teenagers? Because, for example, when you're doing a crisis committee or like a historical committee, sometimes the topic is too heavy and adults can or university students can handle that or they will like it. But high school students will expect something more fun in a way, so they might get bored of it. And that's not good because you will have half the committee just doing something else, and you don't want that. So it's important to consider exactly the age, the education level of your delegates. And language, of course, this is one of the biggest problems of MUN as well. Is your conference going to be English? Is it going to be Turkish? How well will they know English? Are they, again, high school students? Are they university students? Are they English majors? Do they study in English? Are they maybe, I don't know, not Turkish? They could be from Pakistan. They could be from India. We got those a lot in Turkey. Because if you choose a very technical topic, chances are they will not exactly understand what's going on. Because if they, for example, in medical terms, if I had a World Health Organization committee and I chose a very specialized topic which involved a lot of technical know-how with a lot of technical words in it, someone who doesn't know English very well will struggle and won't exactly understand what's happening in the conference, in the committee. And we don't want that because we want everyone to learn something, no matter what. And again, you can code this with Cal, being bold, like our buddy here, right here. This is going to stop, by the way. I haven't coded any of the other ones because I couldn't find it. But let's go on. So outreach. What you want to do about outreach is globality. So you might want a topic that concerns just a country or a region. For example, I don't know, East Turkey and the struggles with Syria, for example. That's a narrow topic that involves Turkey, Syria, a few other P5 countries. But if you have, I don't know, for example, Kenya in there, chances are the delegate of Kenya might not be able to do much in that topic. So bigger does not mean better right away. So you might want something really wide you might say, oh, okay, then I'll involve as many people as possible. And that might not work because then the topic will be too general, too broad, and there will be too many problems to go through. And you might not be able to fit that in 5 days or 4 days, depending on your conference. So you really want to consider and find a middle ground between what's big and what's small. For example, the coronavirus topic, again, I'll give it an example because it's so easy to understand. You might say the coronavirus infection. Okay, so that's a very, very big topic. Like the entire world is struggling. But if you say the struggles of the United States in coronavirus, that handles just the United States, but other countries can help because, for example, Turkey was sending supplies to the United States, sending masks and everything. So it also gives other people a chance to speak while not specifically meaning a really big topic that you possibly couldn't come up with solutions to. So perspective, I think this is one of the more important parts. Your topic should let people see the world through someone else's eyes, even if it means playing the bad guy in a sense. For example, if you've been in a Security Council committee, there are a lot of struggles between P5 countries with like veto powers and Russia and the United States going against each other, and some people might feel bad about that because they don't want to argue against other delegates, and that's perfectly understandable because you don't nobody wants to be aggressive, but you have to understand that you're saying people's perspectives in a way. For example, you're not being yourself, you're being Russia. Or for example, in that just it doesn't have to be necessarily a crisis committee, but any committee topic or agenda item that involves a country being in the wrong, you should just play it that way because it lets you see what people think about their country, what people think about the situation, without necessarily being yourself. And I think that helps because sometimes, and this comes to our third point, we have to learn to empathize with people. And for example, it could be victims. Again, civil war in Yemen. It teaches you to see the world through their eyes, see how they're struggling, empathize with their problems. So it's important to choose topics that actually have to do with these, so that it allows other delegates to your delegates to see the problem, recognize it, and then in a way live in it. Moving on, we have relatability. Okay, so this kind of has to do with marketing in a way because you want delegates, right? And if you have only, I don't know, 50 people attending, it's not going to be a really big conference, which is bad. So you want to hype it, hype your conference, gather interest. And this usually happens when people see your committees and your agenda items. So people have to see it and go, oh, look at this. This is great. I want to talk in this. I want to join this and be part of it. So how do you ensure that? Well, Obviously, it has to do with interest at first. This is sometimes for special and historical committees. When you choose an interesting topic that hasn't been done before, let me give an example again. For example, you're doing a DISIC committee and you choose, I don't know, nuclear weapons in North Korea. You've probably seen this in, I don't know, 50 committees by now. So chances are, if you do it for yourself, well, people are gonna go, "Oh, I've been part of this." I don't know. I don't. Maybe. So you don't want that. You want something unique, interesting that people haven't done before for your agenda items and conference for your and committees. And you also don't want it to be too special. Like I know people do fun MUNs, and that's perfectly fine if you want to do that. But if you're doing it like an academic conference, you should stay within the bounds of what the UN does or what the historical committee did. Uh, so you don't want it to be too unique to the point where it just isn't MUN anymore. So publicity. Uh, this is again has to do with what I mentioned earlier. If you specialize the topic and it's not too well known, for example, I don't know, World War II is a lot of us know about it. A lot of us have learned about it in class, in high school. So chances are a lot of delegates will actually have a little idea, at least a little idea, what's going on. But if you choose something like, I don't know, the burning of Rome in the Roman Empire, that's a very specialized topic again, and not a lot of people might have interest in it, and they will get bored. So if it's well known, chances are a lot of delegates, you will attract a lot more delegates because they will know about the topic, and if it hasn't been done before, like I said, they will want to be part of it. And controversy, this has to do with adapting to the situation and what's going on in the present world again. Uh, if it's something of like hot news or a big topic that has just recently come up, for example, when the coronavirus was still not too widespread and we had received the news of it spreading in China, if a conference capitalized on that and chose it for a World Health Organization agenda item, that would probably interest a lot of people because everyone's talking about it. It's widespread. Like the entire world is going to be discussing it. So if there's a topic that you hear of that's breaking news that you hear in the news in Turkey or globally, doesn't matter, choosing it might prove very, very advantageous for your committee, for your conference as a whole, because it will attract a lot of delegates, prove to others that you're keeping up with what's happening in the world, and know what's going on and about no global issues. Like I said, there's no code for this, but there's a meme right here that I made myself. I hope you like it. Moving on. So, okay, big question time. How do you learn about these? And how can I know the experience of my delegates, their age, their education level, their interests? I don't know what they think is hot topics because it's subjective, right? Like I might think something is big news, but you might think otherwise, and you might think something else is big news. Like I might think the new Avengers movie being released was a really big thing for me, but you might, I don't know, like romantic comedies, and you might think a new romantic comedy movie is actually what big news is for you. So there are two things that you can rely on for this. USGs. So it's really important to maintain your communication with your undersecretary generals because chances are if they're especially experienced, they know what they're doing, right? And they know from previous experiences because they've set so many topics and agenda items and had led so many committees, they know what will delegates be interested in, and they will advise you on it. For example, if someone comes to me about World Health Organization committees, since I've just done so many, I know exactly what delegates usually like and what they don't, because I made mistakes, I made right choices, and I just know what works. So speaking through USGs is key. Two, what you can do is, this is something I don't see many people doing. You can survey people. Go to your school, come up with a survey that says, I don't know, a questionnaire that says, uh, what topics of the world right now do you think is, I don't know, is interesting? And just give it to them and let them write whatever they want. You'll probably get a lot of different topics, a lot of unique ones, but chances are there will be a curve of people having a common interest in something. For example, if you did this right now, people will probably say, I don't know, coronavirus. So it might not work the way you intended to, but chances are it will give you a brief idea of what you want to do for your committee, for your agenda items, and for your conferences. What people think is interesting, what people think is, what people would want to join in be involved in the discussion of. You can do this in your school, in your city. You can do it online. Put it up in your website, a little form that says, "Tell us what you think. Tell us what topics you think are good." Because usually, before announcing the committees, a lot of MUN conferences put their website up before announcing committees. So while your website is there, you might as well as, I don't know, put a little questionnaire right there, a quiz that gives you all this information that you can use. Because this is kind of what, I don't know, marketing sites do, right? Or Google does. They see what your interest is while you're Googling, and they take it, and for example, you search for cats, or I don't know, cat outfits, and then suddenly, while you're browsing through Instagram, you suddenly have an advertisement from Trendyol about cat outfits. So that's what happens. You should do this yourself. It's just a marketing strategy. It's maybe using people's information, but that's how it is. It's, at least it's confidential, right? Because they're giving it to you on your own, on their own accord, and you're not just stealing it like Google does. So moving on. This is also another meme, by the way. I hope you like that as well. It might be cringy, but I'm just trying to make it fun. And agenda items, specifically agenda items. Like I mentioned before, but I'd just like to detail it a little bit more. Uh, do you choose a specific topic or use the general idea? Well, I found out that thinking of it like a TÜBİTAK project, it kind of works, because we probably had people come to your school and give you a presentation about how you should choose a topic for a TÜBİTAK project, right? They don't want you to choose a generalized topic, and they want you to narrow it down. So that's how it works in MUN as well. You don't want a broad topic. The scope shouldn't be too generalized, and it should be narrow enough for people to specifically research what you want them to. Because we have study guides, yeah, but half the delegates, maybe more than half of it, don't exactly read the entire study guide. So the study guide is actually even supposed to be, I don't know, for something the delegates, the foundations of their knowledge. They should research further. So you want to force them in a way to specifically research about your topic. But when people research, they don't want, if it's too generalized, if they research the topic on Google, chances are they will get a lot of results, and they will have to filter through those and find what they want. Well, you don't want that either, because people will get bored. Like, nobody wants to do that much work for a conference. So when you narrow your topic to a point where if people input that specific agenda item into Google, they should find exactly what you want them to. So that's a good rule of thumb for your agenda items. And I'll give an example. For example, like I said before, World Health Organization, COVID-19. Okay, well, that's just too big, just too big of a topic. And you need to specify it. If you Google COVID-19, what are you going to find? You're going to find information about the virus itself, information about infections through the world, information about death rates, information about how you could prevent the spread of COVID-19, everything. So you don't want your delegates to speak on all of this. Well, you could, but you will probably need a 10-day long conference or something like that, because the actual World Health Organization hasn't been able to discuss all these yet, and they've been taking months. But if you specify it, for example, member states for precautions in regards to borders and transport and the subject of COVID-19, that's a narrow topic. It involves all the member states, involves all the delegations in the conference. And it's narrow enough that they can just Google, for example, let's say I'm the delegation of Canada. I can just Google Canada COVID-19 border regulations, and it will give me exactly what I want. And I can just write my position paper on that topic, and people will be able to talk about it easily, and they will have the perspective of Canada or whatever country their delegations of. So it will help. And agenda items like that, I found out really help the committee as a whole, because people stay involved, people are more easily able to come up with solutions and things like that. Moving on. So things to remember. Just as a whole, United Nations has historically dealt with and is still dealing with global issues that concerns member states. So no matter how small they might be or how big they might be, and the policies always concern security and well-being. And the United Nations from time to time has acted as a mediator for issues between countries, like Syria and Turkey, for example. But you should keep in mind that not all the topics that the UN has dealt with is viable for the model United Nations. Why? Like I said before, some of it is too technical for students to understand, and some of it is too specialized and too big to be discussed in a matter of 4 days. And sometimes they're too narrow, and people run out of things to say, come up with problems, and then 2 days after committee is just blank. You did nothing in it. And just final words.
Yeah, time has elapsed. Can you please?
Of course, just final words.
Okay,
so,
thank you.
Have a good balance of historical, crisis, and GA committees. Listen to your USGs. Make sure your delegates always learn something. And at the end, have fun and make sure your delegates have fun. And that's all I'm going to say for today. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for your presentation. So I asked for questions, but seeing there is no questions, so I'd like to thank you for your presentation. So
of course, thank you for having me.
So hope to see you in the next session.